make more sense. I have a little background that I'm going to skip, and because you're all familiar with this. Like Dr. Kirsten said, this is not really a health issue. I think if one wants to put some perspective just for this country briefly, the expected usual deaths from flu annually is about 0.1 to 0.3% of the population. Now, if we just consider our country that has a population of just over 60 million, the death rate so far is about 72,000 in about a year and a half. So if you calculate the deaths per 1,000 of the population, or in terms of the total population, we at 0.12% compared to the US that's at 0.18, nearly 0.9%, and the whole world is at 0.05. So for such a small number of potential deaths, there's been huge implications for the normal and healthy society. If one compares with the Spanish flu that happened in 1918, more than 5% of the world population was killed. So this really pales into insignificance, but one has to acknowledge it's ongoing. And if this was started as an artificial disease where there are people getting sick, there are people dying, I don't think one can, exclude the potential for more waves to come. And what astonishes one is that the waves are predicted, and they predicted when they come and they predicted when they go. And one just wonders how that happens. Another new experience for us in healthcare is that historically health issues have been managed by medical professionals focusing on the sick and taking care of protecting vulnerable individuals. This disease is the first medical condition ever that is predominantly, I would say, mismanaged not by knowledgeable people, but by politicians, bureaucrats and academics, and it's fueled by relentless scaremongering created by the media. From the beginning, it was very clear that there was no interest whatsoever in treating patients and relieving suffering and preventing death. The vaccine was shown as the only potential savior, and the official advice was that this was a disease like the flu with a vascular component that was untreatable. The suggestion was made that people should just stay at home, do nothing until they are not able to breathe anymore, and then seek help. That is far too late. Some well-shown early treatment modalities have been suppressed. You know that you know what they are. The one drug was connected with the previous American president. A fabricated and discredited scientific study followed that has been in medical history quite embarrassingly retracted by two of the biggest journals that exist. The other drug that some people refer to as vitamin I is also been shown to be effective by many people treating these patients early, and this is also being discredited continuously, even going so far as to writing scientific papers where it's called a right-wing drug, which is really hard to take seriously. There's been recent information that very expensive new drugs and a drug by the name of remdesivir has been advised to be the only treatment for people in hospital. And that was done despite the fact that it's had very little prior study, and in the prior studies, including this drug, it's been shown to have the worst outcome and that it had seriously toxic side effects. Now, if we come back to the vaccines, it's currently really showing, maybe not so much here, but definitely in the US, that the risk of vaccine is worse than the risk of the virus. Just to remind you that 0.1 to 0.3% of the population may die. It is far less than 1%. 1% in this country would be more than 500,000 people. One of the major shortcomings of this vaccine rollout is that people are not informed of the potential risks of this. They're also not informed that there are other effective treatments. The vaccine is rolled out in a very mandatory way. There's no transparency. There's a lot of undue pressure on society to comply with this. This is totally in breach of any legal requirement where one is obliged to get free and proper informed consent from anybody that's being vaccinated, and that information should include particularly the risk of such treatments. The composition of the vaccine is largely confidential. It's like a trade secret. It's not possible to share it with anyone, like the spice mixture of Kentucky Fried Chicken. But this is a treatment. It's invasive for any person receiving it. The big companies have all seriously bad track records, and Moderna has never previously manufactured any drugs for medical use. The new technology that is used by these vaccines also has risk that nobody has ever confirmed or shown or excluded. The messenger RNA that's injected is programmed to stimulate one's own cells to make what they call the spike protein. The spike protein is something that we've learned about over the last year, and that is really the damaging part of the natural or unnatural disease. The damage is done at a microvascular level, and there is no off switch for this. I think it's important for people that are not familiar with this to know that this is not FDA approved. There is only emergency use authorization. Each participant that gets this treatment becomes part of a big trial. There is absolutely no safety data. Being vaccinated does not prevent transmission, it does not prevent infection, and it does not prevent death. Although it's claimed to make, if one does get sick, that your symptoms are reduced. I think practically all the people I know, if they get sick, the first question I ask is, when did you get the vaccine? And 100% of my friends that had it has been sick with varying degrees of symptoms. The known adverse events include death. There are severe neurological complications with paralysis and Bell's palsy, which is like half a paralysis of one's face. The thromboembolic events result as a result of the damage that's done to the vasculature at a microscopic level, and there are some gynecological complaints, the worst of which is the potential of infertility in future. There is a concept that is called antibody dependent enhancement. That's something that we've also become familiar with over the last year. This is when the antibodies that one manufactures do not actually block the infection of the virus, but instead increase its ability to infect cells. That has been learned from previously made vaccines. For the swine flu that was suspended after 50 people died. Rsv infection is a lung infection that one finds in small babies. A vaccine was developed for this. Initially, it seemed quite safe, but once the children were exposed to the infection, there was a significant mortality. There's also been a vaccine to dengue fever that caused the death of at least 600 people in the Philippines. The animal studies have all been unsuccessful, although early on there was low mortality. As soon as the animals were in contact with the natural virus, I think all of them died. So in a way, one expected to start seeing these complications 6 months in, or 6 months since the vaccine rollout was started. We are only in this country in about 2 to 3 months, and I think already a large number of people have died. I think there are serious concerns. One of the most serious concerns is the funding of government regulatory bodies by conflicted donors, like charitable donors, foundations, and all these have links to big pharma. Why do people have the vaccine? People rationalize their reasons. They want to travel, they want to move freely, and so far it's not happened at all. Nobody travels, nobody moves freely. There are still mask mandates and social distancing, whether you are vaccinated or not. There is concern that vaccination may speed up the formation of mutations, and one would only see how that will play out as time passes. There's been in the last few days a presentation by Robert Malone. He's a physician and a scientist who's been actually in the development of the mRNA technology, and he's expressed concern that as the antibody activity in especially the Pfizer vaccine, which is a lower dose vaccine, is waning, there is the suggestion that viral infections recur and that they seem to be more aggressive. The data that we considered a year ago as in a way conspiracies are really becoming reality, and someone like Dr. Kirsten, who studied it for many years, probably was expecting it more than anybody else. For me, it's a total new revelation. I think the solution really lies with each individual, that one needs to say no, or to at least be sure that you make a choice of actually wanting to undertake something, realizing the implications. It would be preferable if there's not suppression of early treatment that can be very, very effective. What has been reassuring, in the last week, I read a report in the Mail and Guardian that is in an independent survey done by Afrobarometer. I'm not sure if you read it. Actually showed that 7 out of 10 of the 1,600 people polled in this research were not inclined to take the vaccine because they had little or no trust in the government's ability to keep them safe. It will be very important that private donations to government regulatory bodies and private donations to scientific journals and research is stopped. But how this can be done, if it's already been so fixed for so many years, is hard to say. I do like the solution of disobedience and dissent. I think it would be important to start functioning out of all these planned systems. And usually I like to end with a quote by Jim Rohn, who said, let the views of others educate and inform you, but let your decisions be the products of your own conclusions. I thank you.